Hi, my name is Ash Leonardson, and I'm a published author. I live in Portland, Maine, and I love to write. That's what makes me happy, writing. I'm going to write my way out of debt. Here's one of the books that I wrote that's available for sale through Amazon. It's called Trauma Bonding Not for Me. People I have met along my path of life and healing. Ashley A. Leonardson. Nanette Mary Michaud Leonardson. She was my mother, but she kept a messy house her whole life, as she definitely didn't want to become a professional singer. The woman could sing, and I only ever heard her sing once in my lifetime, and I wanted to record what she was singing, but I never got the chance to record the song she was singing, as I didn't want to interrupt her. It was a song I've never heard before, and I'll never know what the name of the song was, as I can only imagine that a man wrote the song, but you never know. Could have been a woman, but who knows who wrote the song. I didn't think to ask her who wrote the song, so I'll never know. When she burned her home down to the ground and claimed it was an accident, I said, "What are you going to do for an encore?" There was no response from the woman. She was a lazy sloth who just couldn't get her act together. You know how it is. Some of us don't want to get our act together because that means we would have to grow up and be mature. And I suspect it was because of her upbringing. She was raped by an uncle, but who hasn't had trauma in their life? Adrian and Delia Brandt Michaud, Eagle Lake, Maine. George H. Michaud, he was raised in a totally dysfunctional family in northern Maine, Eagle Lake to be specific. The Michauds were known for being a-holes. That's the rumor I heard when I was a child. However, when I met his parents, they weren't so you-know-what pants. They'd clamped down quite a bit. I knew that the grandfather was depressed and he would sit in his chair and watch TV drinking a beer. Delia was a biatch. She didn't like my twister, Rosie, as she didn't like the fact that she was always out with her friends, getting stoned or drunk, and walking the railroad tracks of Eagle Lake, Maine, in Eagle Lake. I would have run away too, and I should have. Aroostook County in northern Maine. That's where I lived growing up. I've lived in many different places during my lifetime. Such is life. I liked George's parents, but I knew they were messed up. But when I met them, they seemed pretty normal, whatever that means. George had a problem with his eyes, and he was not able to see any colors except green, red, black, and white, and grays. He was once asked to pick blueberries in a field and came back with an empty bucket. He got shell for that. George was a narcissist/bully through and through. It showed in his every move towards his whole family. Nobody liked dealing with or working with George H. Michaud, unless they were his friends. His wife, Nanette, was a kisser, and the relationship grew tired, and she stopped giving him what he liked so much. How could she do that? He had a you-know-what that was like Mr. Ed. I would have gladly done the deed, but he was straight, so he was a miserable alcoholic who worked all the time despite his upbringing, and he liked to work as it kept his mind off his problems. He was as straight as they come. So was my mother. My mother never acknowledged my sexuality. Why would she want to? She was always trying to get me to date women, not men. What's up with that? My mother just sat on her butt and thought she was the queen. And she liked putting on makeup to make herself look pretty, to look like Cleopatra from Egypt. Maybe she was Cleopatra in a previous life. You never know. My parents could have reconciled the relationship, but only if they had worked on getting along with each other. Sadly, the the case was not to be. Some people just don't want to get their act together. It showed with the messy house she kept. Why would anybody want to live like that? I can't live like that. I have to be completely organized. I don't like messes. He put up with it. I can't put up with a messy house. It's sadly, I've become just like both of my parents, but no need to get into the details of that situation I've created. Is anybody surprised? Ashley A. Leonardson, /Michaud. I was born July 21st, 1963 at 3:27 a.m. My twister, Rosie, was born at 3:17 a.m. Why do I know these things? Because I pay attention to dates that are important to me. I was relentlessly picked on by George while I was growing up all over the world. I started becoming a you know what at the young age of 10. I preferred boys who liked getting their you know whats. My first experience was great, except I didn't know what I was doing and promptly did you know what. After that, I was hooked. I'm known as a FAGGOT in Eagle Lake, Maine. But what do I care? It's not my problem if guys don't like sucking you know what or taking it deep in their you know what. That's not for me to decide. They can go their girlfriends who have mangled, jangled you know whats. I was the one who won awards all the time in grammar school, and I still have them to this day. I rarely missed school unless it was for a great reason like being sick or going somewhere important. I'm considered very smart and know how to produce my own pop music for sale all over the planet. I even know how to master a complete album of pop tunes. I'd say that's pretty impressive. I also know what people are like, needy and greedy. So why deal with people? Why? I'm all about not being trauma bonded. When someone starts their ship with me, I say, you need to look up those two words online. And they say, what words? Trauma bonding. I never hear back from them ever again. I just don't have time anymore for Dramazine. Sick of it. Dramazine sounds like a magazine or a really great drug. But alas, it's not. It's not a good thing, like Martha Stewart says. She's right. I'm a solid B++ student, which means that I have a capacity for much higher learning, whatever that means. So, trauma bonding is not for me. Part 1 of 5 parts. The Kindle edition, you can get that for $4.98. That's a deal. The hardcover book costs $24.96 and the paperback costs $9.78. tinyurl.com /trauma is not for me. tinyurl, tinyurl, which means universal resource lookup. tinyurl.com /trauma is not for me. I wrote this book to help you heal your trauma. Maybe by reading this book, you'll understand why trauma bonding is such a hard thing to learn not to do. Because when someone starts an argument with you, you don't get angry at them. You don't fight back. You say, I'd like to table this conversation for the next time we meet. And they're going to be like, why? I said, because I'm not arguing with you today. And if they start in on you, you say, I'm out of here. Because the next time you see them, they'll, you know what, to you. And you'll be like, ha, ha, ha. I dodged a bullet. That's what you do to deal with people that want to set you off. No. You don't let people set you off. It's not healthy and it's not happy. Have a blessed day. Gratitude of attitude. Have fun no matter what. Laugh about anything and everything. Your life is just as important as the next person's life. Have a blessed day. And when you're depressed, eat food, go for a walk, go for a bike ride, call somebody, call 207-774-HELP if you're that messed up. Don't crawl back into that womb of yours, which is your bed. That's not a good place to be hanging out. You're just avoiding life. Get out of bed, go for a walk, and enjoy your life. That's what you need to do. Blessings.